Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight. Hope everybody's doing well. We're going to be getting Houston Wade in here momentarily, and we will have a fireside chat. Just going to give him a minute to file in, and we will get him up. Just bear with me a minute as I get some house cleaning done in the background. And let's see. Let's see if he's in here yet. Okay. Just waiting on him to come in. I should see him in here somewhere. Houston, if you're in here, grab a microphone and we'll go from there. I don't see him yet. Oh, there he is. Okay. Okay. So, first of all, Houston, I hope you are listening from a cell phone. If not, you're going to have to log in from a cell phone because you can't speak on Spaces from a PC. So, having said all of that, Houston, hit the request button in the bottom left corner of your phone so I can make sure that you're all right so that I can get into your intro. I think he's listening from a PC. There he is. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to introduce to you Houston Wade. He's been an outspoken voice for the MMTLP fight and the community. Has a passion for this cause, and his passion has made him a leading advocate for us and for change. His YouTube videos and other commitments that he's made to the MMTLP community have made Houston a beacon of hope and inspiration for many. His dedication and determination to help us see this fight through to the end have earned him the respect and admiration of many others. Today, I have the privilege of hosting Houston in a fireside chat to get to know him better and hear his thoughts on the MMTLP fight and the future of the community, and just hear about his life experiences first and foremost. I have no doubt that his insights and perspective will be enlightening and thought-provoking, and I'm honored to have him here speak today. First and foremost, the information and opinions that will be provided in this discussion are for general informational purposes only and should not be construed as financial or investment advice. This discussion is not intended to provide and should not be relied upon for investment advice or recommendations of any kind. Before making investment decisions, please seek the advice of a qualified financial professional. Any reliance that you place on such information is strictly at your own risk. So, keeping in line with the little traditions of the fireside chats, I'm going to introduce and bring up Houston Wade to a song of his choice. And this is what it was. Flies up Pegasus, that's no embellishment. I'm here to paint the whole game, whether it's set or rent. Good pussy, good marijuana, that be my medicine. And I'm a mixture of MJG and the government. A revolutionary banging on my adversaries. And I love Dr. King, but violence might be necessary. Cause when you live on MLK and it gets very scary, you might have to pull your AK, send one to the cemetery. We overwork, underpaid, and we underprivileged. They love us, why? Because we feed the village. You really made it, or just became a prisoner of privilege. You willing to share that information that you've been given. Like who really run this? Like who really run that man that say he run this? Who really run that man that say he run this? Run this? Like who really fund this? Like who really fund who say he fund this? Like who in the world gonna tell that girl who to put on the you can't come list? Now don't be silly. Who the fuck gonna believe me if I got a billion? If I got a billion and a bitch recording me, I'm like, who cares? When I wouldn't be on TV, stuttering, talking scared. So the question is, when God's at home, that trade that bitch alone. Who's that voice to the side of the phone Houston, welcome, my man. How are you today, bud?
I am well. How are you?
I'm well, thank you very much. Lie, cheat, steal, win. Everybody's doing it. How appropriate.
That's the if you ever watched the Netflix docu-series Dirty Money, it's the intro song for it.
Well, it is quite fitting for the situation that we find ourselves in. So kudos to you for making such a fitting
Yeah.
choice. So Houston, you and I have not done any prep, nothing. We're just kind of going with the flow, as most of my fireside chats do. And as most of my fireside chats have in the past, we're going to start at the beginning. Where were you born, Houston?
Here in Seattle.
Seattle, and
Yes.
you grew up there all your life, huh?
Yeah, born and
Okay,
raised.
and we do know of one sibling in particular. How many siblings total do you have?
There are seven of us, so I have six
Holy
siblings.
shit!
There's, yeah, well, there's a my dad's been married three times, and we adopted one.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay,
Yeah.
all right. And where does that place you amongst the siblings? Which one?
Middle, bottom, third.
All right, cool.
Yeah. So the oldest is it will be 59 this year, and the youngest is 30.
Okay, and just for
Yeah.
everyone's edification, there is one sibling in particular that people seem to know here. You want to touch on that?
Yes, my brother Gardner is chief production officer for Metamaterial. So I'm as a caveat, I am not allowed to talk about
Oh no,
Metamaterial.
so we
So
won't.
I can talk about MMTLP because they are separate, but
I don't plan on doing that.
yeah.
So the
Okay.
format of this is we just kind of want to get to know you and how your experiences that led you to become who you are, and we'll probably spend a good maybe 15 to 20 at the end just talking about MMTLP. um, but
Sure.
so growing up in Seattle, do you have any, what is your first and most early memory that you can think of?
Oh goodness, I have pretty good memory. I can remember back to wearing diapers. Um, so let's see here. We were living on in this little cabin on the water here on Bainbridge Island, and um, I was a little kid, 1.5, 2 years old, and I it was very much, back then everyone's kids were just open range, free range kids. So as long as there was a sibling around, I was just wandering around in the yard, in the driveway, the street, in the woods, just disappearing at all times and freaking my parents out. Um, but
It's
I can remember, uh, I can remember almost dying. So I wandered onto the neighbor's dock and fell off the dock in low tide, got my head stuck in the mud, and my dad racing and rescuing me and unplugging my head from the mud. And apparently, my mother had been telling my dad to put up a fence around the shore for a long time because something like that was going to happen. The very next day, I have a vivid memory of my dad pounding fence posts into the lawn and putting up like a chicken wire fence so I couldn't escape anymore. So
a
that
pretty
might be my first
fucking
like really
haunting
big
memory
memory.
to have for your first one.
Yeah.
All right. Any memories of your early school years, elementary school?
Oh yeah. Daycare, nursery school, preschool. Um, but like the biggest memories are probably kindergarten with Mrs. Dunn, who was absolutely wonderful. She was just a gifted kindergarten teacher, and really fostered like kids being creative. It wasn't so much like got to get work done. It was more like, hey, let's make your brains go outside the box. Like we get the basics in, we do the counting and the letters and you know identifying our colors and shapes and all that stuff. But it was very much like she liked practical jokes, and so every morning we'd sit in this little semicircle. So I learned what a semicircle was, one of the first lessons that we learned, and we would have to give her our notes. So if we got invited to a friend's house to go play, and we had to take a different bus than we normally take. We'd have to hand her a permission slip from our parents, and then she would write out this little tag and pin it to our shirt, and we'd wear that little tag all day long. So then when we got onto a different bus, as a 5-year-old, the bus driver would see the tag and be like, okay, I know which stop you're going to. And but we'd often she always talked about how she was scared of rats and mice, so we'd draw little pictures of a rat or a mouse and fold it up as a note if it was from our parents, and we'd give it to her, and she'd open up and go, ah. It was, looking back, it was
That's funny.
adorable. But but she was just a wonderful, wonderful woman. And then later on, when I became an adult, she and I would go to city council meetings. I'd sit next to her, and we'd just be, what are those two old guys from the Muppets, the rabble rouser dudes that sit in the audience?
Oh, I can't remember their names. I know
I
who you're
can't remember
talking
either, but
about.
that's what I felt like with her. Yeah. So for years, she was like my gossip buddy for yelling at the city council and getting things done. But yeah, so I can I've got a weird memory. I can remember individual lesson plans that we did in kindergarten, first grade, second grade, so on.
Yeah, I often find myself remembering very strange details from my childhood. Also,
Yeah.
here's an ongoing joke that I've been made aware of. We talked about where you were born. What day was it, Houston?
Apparently every day of the
Huh.
year.
All right. Well, we tried, ladies and gentlemen. We tried.
It's-
Um, so, as a kid, uh, sports, books, what was it that you did for fun?
yes. Uh, I read and read everything. Um, so as a kid, if it was rainy outside, no friends were over, I pretty much would just stare at maps or the almanac, and I'd read those constantly to the point that I probably have the probably 1987 through 1992 almanacs almost memorized. Um, and yeah, I'd stare at maps, and then as a hobby, I'd free draw them from memory, so I can draw most of the globe from memory, at least major island groups and things like that. Um, I was fascinated with just data, which my mom probably just thought I was completely on the spectrum. But I would love to make lists, and this is before the internet. So if you wanted to make lists, you had to consult reference books, and so I'd pull out, in the almanac they have populations of major U.S. cities, over 5,000 people. So I'd go through the entire list, and I'd note which ones are the biggest cities, and I'd make lists of the largest cities of each state or the entire nation. And I just love making. It was My mom thought I was the weirdest kid in the world, but that's what I do for fun. And then when it came to sports, I played all sports, but baseball is my love, and that's what I ended up doing briefly as a career. Uh, uh, I was at one time a very good pitcher. Now that I'm old, not so much.
We'll get into that. So, growing up,
Yeah.
were you into video games?
I mean, I played. It wasn't
What
like my
system?
passion. But yeah, Nintendo.
The original.
Uh, Original,
Okay.
yes.
So Zelda.
Yeah. I had Zelda, but Zelda never really grabbed me. I'll be honest.
And that,
Um,
ladies and
I
gentlemen, is the end of this fireside chat. No, I'm just kidding.
no, I had a next door neighbor who was very much on the spectrum, and that's all he talked about was Nintendo. And my parents made me go over, be nice to him, go over and spend the night. He wants them to spend the night, and I watched him beat Super Mario Brothers with his toes, and he
It's pretty funny.
I was like, cool. Can I play? He's like, no, you're gonna watch me play. I'm like, okay. Um, but he would dress as Link for Halloween. We kept calling him Zelda. He's like, no, Zelda's the girl. I'm Link. We're like, okay, Zelda. Uh, but yeah. So I if I played, I like Kid Icarus. I played
I
that one a
remember that
lot.
game. Yeah.
Also, just a brutal game because anytime you died, you started right at the beginning again. Um, and I like Bases Loaded. I love playing Bases
Mm.
Loaded. And I found a cheat that allowed me to basically throw perfect game after perfect game after perfect game. And so remember going through an entire season and winning all 162 games, not allowing a single run.
Wow. Yeah, I remember both games. I
Yeah.
don't remember the cheat code for bases loaded, but that probably would have came in handy when we were kids. Okay, so let's move on to your middle school years. Uh, what were your
Yes.
favorite subjects that you studied?
Um, Geography growing up was always my favorite. Just maps in general always just fascinated me. But we didn't really have a specific like geography subject, even though I kept trying to get people to do that. Uh, we did do the National Geographic bee, and we started that in seventh grade. So seventh and eighth grade, I won, and then both years I went to nationals in DC. I won the state competitions as well, but I didn't place very well at nationals. And that was hosted by Alex Trebek, so I got to like shake Alex Trebek's hand twice.
Nice.
Um,
Statler
yeah.
and
Uh,
Waldorf.
yes, thank you, Statler and
Thank you,
Waldorf.
Jor-El. Um, okay, so do you have any memory from any single memory in middle school that stands out the most? Whether it be an
Middle
accomplishment
school.
or something fun,
Uh,
whatever it was.
I mean, kicking ass the National Geographic beat was probably like the highlight. But most of middle school was just juvenile delinquency.
Tell me some of that.
I think between ages 12 and 14, they should just send kids home for 3 years and then bring them back in high school. It's just like scholastically, nothing gets accomplished. The kids just are just just freaking out. My middle school, like I went from this elementary school where we didn't have things like detention. And all of a sudden, middle school, if you forgot a pencil, you'd have to like stay after school in detention, and you get all these punishments. And so you get punishments for the littlest thing. So
What the
it's
hell
like
kind of a middle
if you
school did
punch
you go to that they punished you
it,
for not having a fucking pencil? Was it a
oh,
private
it
school?
was so punitive. It was no, it was
Well,
public
that's
school.
fucking weird.
It's just that it was run like a police state, and so like if you were to punch a kid in the face, you get attention. If you forgot a pencil, you get detention. So if you're gonna get attention, you may as well make it worthwhile. And so the school just
What
became
if you stabbed
just
a kid
everyone was
with
just a
his
criminal.
pencil and took it from him?
Exactly, yeah. And so in eighth grade, let's see here. What happened was we had been given this form like the first day of school. We had to have our parents fill out showing that our insurance coverage or whatever, and bring it back the next day. And I totally forgot mine, and so had half the kids in my class. And the teacher we're supposed to hand it to, she decided to give everyone a detention who didn't bring in that form. And so there ended up being so many students showing up to detention. The detention teacher was like, "Look, I can only take 30 of you, and there's like 200 of us." And so she's like, "The rest of you come back tomorrow." Well, this is like a lunch detention, and if you missed so she reported us missing for lunch detention, so all of a sudden it became all after school detentions. And I was like, fuck this. I turned my form in already. I'm not taking an after school detention for this, so I didn't go. And then my after school detention became an after school detention with discussion. And I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that either, so I just didn't go. And then that became an in school suspension. I didn't go into class. And then because I didn't show up to in school suspension, I got an out of school suspension, kept going to class, and eventually became like a 2 week suspension, still kept going to class. And finally, the assistant principal came and she was like, "They're going to expel you. What is going on?" And I said, "I didn't bring a form in like 2 weeks ago. They gave me a detention. There were two people in the detention room, and so the lady couldn't take me in, and they gave me a detention for missing. So I'm not going to any of these." And she's like, "Oh, fair enough." And but as a result of that, I organized a school walkout. So this is like maybe April or May of my eighth grade year, and all 1,200 students just got up and left, and we just went to town and had a great day. And the police were called. They didn't know what to do with like 1,200 students not going to school, and it resulted in this giant PTA meeting with all the parents and the principals about like the punishment of the kids and how they just ran a police state, that the kids weren't going to do it anymore. And we won. They like all of a sudden they got rid of what they called the infraction system, and it was amazing how like the last month or two of school was just so peaceful. And then we get to high school, and the high school didn't even have like a detention system. They just treat us like adults. Like, you have to go to the bathroom, just go to the bathroom. Why are you raising your hand asking for permission? You're an adult, go take a piss. uh, and it was amazing how like behavior problems just vanished the minute they stopped treating us like little criminals.
Yeah, yeah. There's something to be learned from that, given the situation that we're in. There's
Yeah.
probably a parallel to be drawn. We'll get to it. So high school rolls around, and
Yeah.
were you a part of any? Were you a part of any clubs or anything extracurricular in high school that stands out to you?
Um, a few clubs. I did Earth Service Corps, which was sort of like it was. You'd have an AmeriCorps volunteer come to the high school, and you'd just plan projects like reclaiming streams or doing litter pickups or trying to get the local grocery store to use recycled
Tree hugging
bags and
101.
things like that. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, and it was great because I was the only dude, and there's like 40 girls, so that was always an incentive. I was on the board of this community center called the Teen Center. I wasn't really someone who participated in the Teen Center daily activities because I had sports and friends and things like that. But it was definitely a lot of like kids who were on the edge. They would spend a lot of time there, and that was their social circle. But I was on the board, and I'd help organize their concerts. And I founded a concert called No More School of Palooza, which was held on the last day of school every year. That was sponsored by the Teen Center. And our tradition on the island was that school lets out, the kids go ape, and they have a giant water balloon fight like all over town.
What's the name of the
And it
island that
was
you're
just like
from?
Bainbridge Island. And uh, the the local businesses were complaining because the kids would just like have water balloon fights in the grocery store, and it was just mayhem. And so I organized my sophomore year of high school. I organized No More School of Palooza, and I got like every band the middle school and high school had, like all the kids in rock bands, punk bands, and then we hired some headliners, and we'd have an all-day concert the last day of school. So school would get out, it's like a half day. We got out at noon. Concert would start at 12:30, and then all the kids would end up, instead of causing mayhem through town, they caused mayhem in the park where we had the stage and the concert. And it's been really successful. So it'd be, let's see here, this year would be the 27th or 28th annual will be this year. So it's had some staying power. So I ran it for a few years, and then I trained a younger student who was a couple years behind me how to do it, and then he trained the kids behind him, and it's been an ongoing thing. It's been some really big bands have come through. We had for a few years, Stone Gossard of Pearl Jam would sponsor it, and he has this record label called Loose Groove, and whoever was up and coming on his label, he would send over, and they'd have like two or three bands every year as our headliners. It was a good time had by all. Um, let's see here. Also in high school, I mean, baseball was dominated my life. I also swam, played basketball, ultimate frisbee.
How'd you do on
Um,
your SAT? I'm curious.
well, the first time I took it, I was in seventh grade, and I got a 1440.
Holy shit.
And the second time I took it was my junior high school, and I did a 1590.
You did a 1590 out of a possible 1600? What'd
Yeah.
you get wrong?
It was on verbal, so I got perfect in the math score, and I got a 790 on verbal. So some
Wow.
analogy, I don't know.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. What is the funniest, most delinquent memory you can think of from high school? Some of your shenanigans.
So my senior year of high school, my one of the former math teachers who was just terrible, and I was super advanced in math, so I finished math my freshman year of high school. Um, and then was like taking these early morning classes with a retired professor who would do like advanced calculus with some of us nerds. We called 0 hour. But that freshman year, the math professor, he was super religious, and he would read his church bulletin to us every morning. And I was like, yo, man, you can't do that. You're a public employee. Like, we're here for math, not for you to proselytize to us. From that point forward, the dude had it out for me. He hated my guts. Absolutely hated my guts. So when I took computer programming from him, he figured out any reason to like knock my programs, and I literally failed computer programming and had to go to summer school for computer programming. it was it was bad. But then he became our senior year. He became our vice principal because our other vice principal was on maternity because she had a baby, and he turned the school into a prison. So that lovely like atmosphere of no behavior problems He hired security guards. The security guards were bored, so all they would do is like ticket and tow cars all day long, even if they were parked legally. And so I organized this thing called Park Illegally Day, and put flyers all over school. I organized a bunch of kids like we are going to park everywhere on the football field, you name it. So you have to like tow thousands of cars, and it's going to make the news. And this asshole is going to be, you know, he's going to have to like talk about the behavior problems he's created at the school. And so the day for Park Illegally Day came, and I showed up to school, and there was police everywhere. And what he had done is he called in a bomb threat, so that school got canceled. So there was no Park Illegally Day. And yeah, so it was, yeah, we even to this day we've been
Don't
at
try
war
that at
with each
home,
other.
kids.
Yeah. So the year after I left high school, he started bringing in like youth group leaders to set up booths in the school and proselytize to the kids. And he got in trouble for that. And instead of like firing him or anything, they're like, "Oh, you know what? We'll just make you the principal of the middle school." So he became principal of the middle school. And this is, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago now. Um, he got in trouble because the middle school would have like parent volunteers run the lunchroom and things like that. And all the parent volunteers were actually preachers and pastors, and none of them had kids that went to the school. And he legally never had them do any background checks as required by law. So he got in trouble for this. And there was a whole series of superintendent public school board meetings. And I went and I testified about, his religious indoctrination of the kids when I was in school, and how he failed me for computer programming because I wasn't, I called him out on it. And he went leaned into his microphone after testified. He's like, "Well, maybe you failed just because you thought you were smarter than everyone else." And I leaned into my microphone and I said, no, I'm using his name, "Mr. Florian, I'm an astrophysics professor and I worked as a computer programmer for 4 years. I am smarter than everyone else." The whole crowd went, "Oh."
So, okay. So, moving on from high school,
Yeah.
where did you matriculate in college?
So originally I went down to UC San Diego. My goal is I wanted to be an industrial engineer, and do industrial engineering and design. And I was fascinated with automotive design. So it was going to be sort of along those lines. I had a baseball scholarship to UC San Diego, and I was supposed to play there. And I'd moved down earlier in the summer and was doing, back then, summer of '99, 18-year-olds could make a fortune working in the computer industry. So I was doing a lot of tech consulting and helping like build or recover networks, and working for a consulting arm of this temp agency. And so I lived in San Diego all summer and was like surfing during the day and working these evenings where I was fixing computer networks. And then a week before classes started, this is what, September, would have been September 12th, 99. So that was like a week and a half before classes started. I woke up in the hospital, and I'd been hit by a car while my bicycle was hit and run, and put into an ambulance, taken to the hospital, and I woke up like 13 hours later. Um, and my bell was rung pretty good. And when I got out, my insurance company only covered the ambulance ride. They refused to cover the emergency room or any of the treatment because the ambulance took me to a hospital that was not in network, or as they called it back then, a non-preferred provider. And so 18 years old, I was stuck with 40 grand in medical bills. I was concussed really bad and couldn't start school, and I lost my scholarship. So I had to come home to Seattle, bounce around at community college for a while, played a few schools, Olympic College, Seattle Central, and then I signed a pro contract, went and played baseball in Austria for a year. While I was in Austria, I tore my tricep tendon and had to come back and have surgery here in Seattle. Recovered, ended up at Lewis and Clark College, played baseball there, and then finally transferred. Decided that I didn't want to do engineering, wanted to do physics, and then at Lewis and Clark decided I don't want to do physics, I want to do astrophysics, and ended up at University of Hawaii Hilo, which has the #1 astronomy program in the world. So that's where I finished out.
In Hawaii.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
We actually have an astrophysicist in our community. His name is his avatar name is Precept. His name is Kyber.
Yes.
Yeah, he's a
Yeah.
smart dude.
We're in contact with each
Yeah,
other.
he's a
Yeah.
very smart dude. I did skip over one question that I tend to ask everyone. How old were you when you drove your first car, and what was it?
Um, I was 12.
Okay,
Uh,
kids.
so I, so in middle school, I was super advanced math. Like I was doing, you know, algebra and trigonometry. And then in seventh grade, they're like, we're no longer going to do an advanced math program. And they put me back with the regular kids. And I was like, I did this like 5 years ago. I'm not like, this is so boring and lame. And it was like a pre-algebra class or something. Because they were trying this whole system of like, you know, we should got if we put the gifted kids with the regular kids, it'll rise up the regular kids. And all it did was make us gifted kids just fucking like shut down. Um, and I wasn't doing my homework. And I was like literally failing a class I had finished when I was like in third grade. And my dad's like, do your homework. I'm like, this is bullshit. I don't want to do any of this. I would rather just like space out than doing my homework. And he was like, if you finish your homework in the next 30 minutes, I'll teach you how to drive. I was like, good. Okay. Finished my homework in like 5 minutes and was done. And he took me to the American Legion parking lot, and it was his crappy 1993, 92 Ford Escort wagon. And that was the first car I ever drove. And it was an automatic, so it wasn't much to learn. But yeah, I got to drive the car at 12 years
Do you
old
drive a stick
around the
now?
parking lot. Oh yeah, oh yeah, uh, yeah. I am definitely. I do see automatics as automatic scum.
Oh man, that's a strong feeling
Yes,
to
but
have about a car. Okay, so so you complete your studies in Hawaii. What was Hawaii like? Any
yes.
memories of Hawaii?
Oh, so many. Hawaii is. I mean, the school is great. If as long as you were in the sciences at Hilo, you were doing well. All the other programs, yeah, like you might as well just like do high school over again. But the sciences were really strong. With world ranked astronomy, geology, biology, marine science. Those programs were just
Well,
top
that's
notch.
where all the
Um,
that's where like the correct me if I'm wrong, but like the like one of the most prominent telescopes is in Hawaii, isn't it?
oh, yeah, 14 of the world's largest
There you go.
telescopes are up there. And you know, you got telescopes, you've got active volcanoes, you've got amazing evolutionary biology, you're surrounded by the ocean, it's warm, so you can go study things. So all those programs just were amazing. Um, Hilo itself is it's the third world. Um, they're economically depressed. I mean, even to this day, when I was there, it was about 25% unemployment. All the sugar mills had shut down about a decade earlier, so no one had work. So if you didn't work at Walmart or at the college, you were kind of just unemployed. It rains 200 inches a year, so there's not much tourism dollars to be spent there. Everything just kind of rusted, and the jungle would take over. And back then, I'm sure now they still have problems with it, but back then there was a giant methamphetamine epidemic. They called it ICE, and these super factories from Asia would like bring their their haul to the United States, and the easiest stop to do was the Big Island. So they would just flood Hawaii with this stuff, uh, and so and you know I was a minority. I was a white dude, tall white dude,
How tall are
there's
you?
animosity. Yeah, I'm
You
six
fooled
four.
the shit out of me. Continue.
Yeah, yeah, okay. um, and uh, you know, the missionaries when they arrived in Hawaii, they just ruined everyone's lives. They took their land. They you know took their land, gave them a Bible. They ruined this kind of free love society they had, and everyone all of a sudden had to like concepts of ownership that didn't exist anymore. They just ruined their society for 200 years. So I totally get the animosity of when a white dude shows up and he's like, oh, I'm an astronomer. And they're like, well, your telescopes are on a sacred mountain, asshole. Like, I get it. I totally get I am the enemy. And he, in a place like that, you have to tiptoe around. There's certain places a white dude can go, and certain places they cannot. And when you learn to not go to these places, you just don't go. And there was quite a few uh, white folks that didn't understand that they were no longer in the majority, and they would get their asses kicked, really, really bad. They go to a
Getting
bar
your ass
and like,
kicked is
hey,
one
why
thing.
won't
Getting
serving
your
me?
ass kicked by a native Samoan or a Hawaiian is a
Oh,
completely
dude,
different
they're
story.
giant. They're giant. They all do Brazilian jiu-jitsu and cage fighting, and none of them can hold their liquor. They will end you. and, and these white dudes, they like go to a bar and not get served. Like everyone just ignore them and be like, God damn it, why is no one serving me? And then some dude would just punch their lights out. So a lot of people had to learn their lessons the hard way that way. Um, and like it's just a lot of crime, a lot of crime. A lot of people, they grew up hard. They grew up with parents who, like 1 in 4 kids in Hawaii actively have a parent in prison. So there's just a lot of tough life that happens there. And if you should go to Hawaii and you spend your time in the touristy spots and in the gated community or the hotel, you don't see that stuff. But when you're living there, you see the poverty and the hardship. It's you survive. You aren't if you aren't rich, you aren't thriving. And there's most of the population isn't rich. They are struggling to get by at all times.
Wow.
So yeah, like I have a great time visiting. Living there was definitely a struggle.
Do you still go back and visit every now and again?
Oh yeah, I still have friends there, and I go back and visit, and I get to do the touristy things. I don't have to worry about like someone breaking into my house to rob me or anything. So
So
yeah,
you complete your studies at Hilo, and what's your
yes.
like at what like what's your next move with an astrophysics degree?
So my focus was planetary sciences. So I did. I went there for astrophysics, but the astrophysics degree it's very linear. Like you can't take this class before you take that class, and because it's a small program, some classes are only offered in alternating years. So I was gonna be stuck there for 3.5 years no matter what, just to get through the program. And in the meantime, I was like, oh, well, I've always loved geography. They got a geography program. I can take these classes in any order I want. So let's just load up. So I started taking a bunch of geography classes as well. And then there was a minor called Earth and Space Sciences. And since my focus was going to be planetary sciences, I was like, well, I've got all these geography classes that count, and I've got all these astronomy and physics classes that count. All I need are some geology classes to take. And so started taking the intro to geology classes and the classes that would fit that minor. And before long, I was like, oh, you know what? I really like geology too. So I talked to the head of the department, and he was like, okay, because these classes are offered alternating years, you have to get into mineralogy now, or else you won't be able to. It won't be offered for another 2 years, which means, and we're halfway through the semester. Our midterm is on Monday. And he told me, he's like, if you show up and you can get a C or better on the midterm for mineralogy, I'll let you stay in the class. And I was like, oh, okay. So I went to the library, I checked out a mineralogy book, and I just read it cover to cover and showed up, and I got a 79 on the midterm, and like half the students in the class failed. and, and so there I am, have taken a single class about this subject, and he was just it was the worst thing he could have done. He was like reprimanding the class for how poorly they did. And like, look at this guy over here. He never showed up for 2 months, and he got a 79 on the test, and you idiots failed. And all of a sudden, everyone in that class just hated me. Uh, but yeah, so I stuck it through and finished up with geology as well. And that since I'd bounced around for the previous 4 years, all these colleges, I had just a boatload of credits. Um, so when I graduated, I had BAs in geography and geology, a BS in astrophysics, and then Earth and Space Science minor, physics minor, mathematics minor, chemistry minor, biology minor, and a political science minor. Um, so
Where does
I had
that
like
lead
200.
you after college?
Uh, so um, for a time, I worked as a telescope operator for the Subaru telescope for a little while. I stayed in Hawaii, and then I was like, you know what, I got to get out of here. I came back home to Seattle, and I had not applied to grad schools. I was just I was figuring I was going to do grad school eventually, but I just kind of wanted to, I don't know, mellow out because the number of courses I took kind of burned me out. I'll be honest. I was doing like 21 to 27 semester credits per semester. which is a whole. I don't think people went to college. That's a lot.
Yeah, that is
We're
a
talking
lot.
like 7 to 9
Yeah, 12
classes
is
a
4
semester.
classes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mellowed out. I I was working in a bar, and when I finished my geology degree, I realized I never actually like, had gone to look for anything before. So I started just by looking for gold, and I got a gold pan and pan gold the first time. I was like, no way! So I got a sluice box, then I got a gold dredge, and I was mining gold like crazy, and I was actually making a pretty good living off of it. This is before
Where were
08.
you mining
And
gold?
then all over the Northwest. I'd do some trips and check out other places and go to like Idaho and Montana and California and stuff. Um, but then when the economy collapsed, a lot of folks who were doing construction and other jobs all of a sudden were like up looking for gold, and it just got really dangerous. A lot of these dudes didn't know the laws, didn't know what they were doing. Seemed to be more interested in just like having an excuse to shoot somebody than actually like recovering gold. And so I branched out from there and I started focusing on precious gemstones. And and I discovered like precious gemstones. Most people who look for those are like old retirees. So I'm not to worry about like them wanting to kill me. And a lot of them wanted to like, oh, I'll show you how to do this. So I learned a lot from them. And before long, I was probably one of the foremost experts on the geology of colored gemstones as a result of branching into that. I formed a geology company called Noosphere Geologic, and yeah, I get contract jobs to stake claims for people, or if they inherited a mine, they want to know what's in there, so I'd assay the mine for them, and I was doing a lot of that work. And then finally, I was like, you know what, we go back to grad school. So started going to UW. Was going to do a PhD in astronomy, kind of focus on the planetary sciences side. The whole reason for planetary sciences was I wanted to mine space. Um, we need astrogeologists to identify and figure out how to get resources out of space if we want to save the Earth. So that's going to be the future because there's a limited number of resources out in space and only a finite here on Earth. And you can do whatever you want to a rock in space. You're not going to be hurting the environment or killing off rare creatures or poisoning the water supply. So that's kind of was my focus. And
And now you're a professor?
yeah, so I didn't finish my PhD at UW. My fiance tragically died uh, at the end of my
I'm
second
sorry.
year, and yeah, and I just didn't have the motivation to go on, so I left after 2 years with a master's, um, and figuring that go back someday, but someday became a while. I got a job teaching. I became like the math and science department for the Art Institute of Seattle, and it was a part-time gig, so I could do my geology stuff in the summer and teach during the school year. And I teach everything because if you're going to art school, you still need your general eds. So I teach all the math classes from I don't know how to do math up through calculus, and then I teach intro to geology, intro to astronomy, intro to biology, to evolution, ecology, physics of motion, physics of sound, chemistry of food. I taught like every science class you could possibly imagine in an intro state, which was to me was fascinating because some of the folks, I don't say some, most of the people who end up in art school are in art school because they failed their math and science in high school. There's a few who aren't, but especially when I taught my first math class, which was an algebra class, it was like an equivalent of like algebra 3-4 class you take like junior of high school. Uh, and I go up and I put an equation on the board, and they're like, "Why is there a letter in this math?" And I was like, "Oh shit, huh." Because in my experience, my entire life, I was with the kids that you put an equation on the board and everyone just kind of got it. I'm like, oh, cool, I understand what's going on. And all of a sudden I had to explain it. And I didn't really understand how my brain knew what it knew because it would make sense to me. And then that's it. But I had to like develop the language to explain why my brain understood what it did. And I'll be honest, that first semester was a lot of me figuring out how to explain things that I just innately understood and that they did not. And that was I was learning as much as they were because I didn't know the language to explain how this worked, and then ended up having to develop all sorts of different ways of solving equations that I always did one way for 20 years. All of a sudden, I'm explaining it in like five different ways, and I was like, "Holy crap! I could do it this way too," and it was kind of amazing. And I got kind of addicted to seeing these students, and some, they could be 18-year-olds fresh out of high school. It could have been someone who'd been in the military for 20 years, somebody who just got out of prison. So I had this huge age range. I think my oldest student was this grandmother who was like 82, and she was from Moldova, like one of the poorest nations in the entire world. And she had moved to America as an immigrant, got her GED at 79, and decided she wanted to become a fashion major. So this woman had been 70 years since she had done math of any kind, and I'm doing it in a language that she was not too familiar in. Uh, but it 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 showed me that a lot of the failures in education weren't necessarily that, like, these students were dumb. It was that, you discover that there was a kid who got the flu in fifth grade, and it was the week they did long division, and he never learned long division after that and was behind in everything after that point. Or when they got to some serious math in middle school, it was taught by a teacher who didn't know math themselves and may have gone and gotten their education degree because they wanted to avoid math as much as possible. And then all of a sudden they found themselves stuck teaching a math class that they themselves didn't understand, and just ruined an entire like community's worth of students. So it, teaching was eye-opening to me as to like the backgrounds people came from and like the baggage they carried with them, and trying to like overcome that and showing them that, yes, you're going to be a fashion major, a marketing major, and we have to show you that like you have to use a parabola to figure out cost benefit analysis to figure out what you're going to price these products at. And they're like, what? I didn't know I was going to have to do that crap. But or you're making a video game. You have to understand how gravity gets programmed into the environment. You need to know these equations. And it was kind of fascinating to like take these people who are very artsy fartsy minded and turning them into really competent students, which I don't think they had at the art institute before. It was usually like some art history major trying to teach a math class, and they were not doing very well at that.
So, okay, at what point, how old were you when you started to take an interest in the free markets?
Um, I mean, I always dabbled here and there,
What was the first
but
stock
when
you
the
ever bought, and how old were you?
uh first stock I ever bought was Microsoft, and I was 18. Um, and the biggest holdings I had. So when I was 19, I was working for Rivals.com, because I'd come back to Seattle. I was bouncing around these community colleges, still doing tech work because I could make just stupid amounts of money. I mean, like 23 years ago, I could make $100 an hour at 19, plugging computers into a wall. It was silly. Uh, but I got a job with Rivals.com, and I exercised all of my stock options. So now my stock options were at like 25 cents a share, and the stock, I think at the peak, was like 140. And I was 19 years old. I was worth $3 million. I was like, shit, I'm gonna be able to retire in like 3 months when I've divested and I can sell all my stock. And with about 3 months left to go, I show up to work one day and there's padlocks on the door, and the dot-com bubble had burst. The company no longer existed. The stock was worthless. And it was like my first real lesson in just what bubbles can do. So, yeah. And I couldn't find, after a while, I couldn't even find like temp work doing computer work because, you know, if you had the option of hiring a PhD in electrical engineering to plug your computers in the wall for $10 an hour, or some 19-year-old who hadn't finished college yet, you're going to pick the engineer. And so before long, I couldn't get any tech work, and I was like making coffee, and I was making coffee at a grocery store. And that's when I started going to pro tryouts, and I got signed to go play in Europe. But yeah, my stock journey started early and had quite the few ups and downs.
So so you've traveled all over Europe, obviously playing ball.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. We played.
Any
Well, we were based in Austria. The team was in Austria, but we played in
any
Germany,
crazy memories of
Italy.
that time?
And um, I don't say crazy memories because oftentimes I was exhausted because I to keep my NCAA eligibility, I couldn't be a pro, so I was the coach for the little leagues. So I would spend like all day with girls softball teams, boys baseball teams, throwing batting practice, doing all that stuff, and then we in the evenings we'd have our practice for the pro team, and then we'd and then Friday through Monday we'd be traveling somewhere in Europe to go play as many games as possible. Sometimes it'd be like three double headers in a row. And the rules for European baseball is if you are a non-resident, you can only pitch 4 innings. So I could never get a win because I'd always start 4 innings and then someone else would come in and finish the game. You have to pitch at least 5 innings to get a win. But I'd pitch like 3 games a week, three games
So
on the
that's
weekend,
exhausting.
and it was pretty tiring. And that's probably why my elbow tore apart was all that pitching. Uh, but we were like the team I was on was Kufstein Vikings, and that season I didn't get to play in the championships because I had to fly back to Seattle to get surgery. But that team won the European or the the uh, Austrian championships and won. We won the Eiffel Cup, which was sort of like the professional team. It's like I try to compare everything to like everyone cares about soccer in Europe. There's like the Euro Cup and the Champions Cup and stuff, like club teams and national teams. So the club team, we won the club team championship, which was not expected because there are teams in Italy that are in the Netherlands that are full of like ex major leaguers, and I don't know how we won, but we won, um, which was a big deal.
Nice. Yeah, that's
Uh,
awesome.
but yeah, but we played in Austria in our little town, and like 30 people would show up, and then we'd play a game in Italy, and there'd be like 10,000 in the stadium. It was wild.
Yeah, that sounds wild. Okay, so as your fascination with the free markets kind of tends to grow,
Yeah.
at what point does so how long at what point does were you aware of Torchlight Energy Resources before the merger?
Oh yeah. Um. So without giving too much away, because I can't talk about metamaterial, but I was aware of the merger probably before everyone. I was. I will say, like, if you go to search YouTube, Twitter, whatever, I was probably the first person talking about it. Uh, in any major social
Did
media.
you run into
Um,
a spot of trouble you were because of your just discussing MMAT?
yeah, they contacted me and were like, stop it.
When you say they,
But like, look, yeah, the PR people at
I
Metamaterial,
see.
yeah, they're like, just don't, just shut up. And I was like, okay. I mean, I'm not saying like I don't get any privileged information. I just say like, this is what's in
No,
the
but
news.
just because that's your,
Uh,
that you could, that's
yeah,
understandable.
yeah.
Um,
So they're like, stop it. But so I think my first videos talking about the merger for everyone outside of tweeting, because I didn't really start doing videos until May of 2021. I was like, hey, this merger's happening. I'm buying a bunch of it because the way I saw it, I didn't even see it as a squeeze potential. It didn't even occur to me. I was like, this stock is trading at like 80 cents. They're going to merge, and then you get a share for the assets they have, and they'll sell off the assets and you get a couple bucks out of it. I was like, oh, I'm gonna get like I'll spend 80 cents, get $2, $3 out of it. That seems like a good win to me. So I bought a bunch and then it merged and it became this weird squeeze thing. I was like, oh holy shit, I didn't even realize these guys are getting shorted like everyone else. Um and then the brouhaha all began of, you know, the stock shouldn't
well, we're
trade.
going to
The
talk
stock all of
about
a sudden
that.
was trading.
What were your
Yeah.
first thoughts when you opened up your account and you saw security with the ticker symbol MMTLP?
I I think I saw originally on a tweet, someone was like, "What the hell?" All of a sudden, there's a value attached to my stock, and there's like a buy and sell button. And I went, "What?" And I logged in, and like, sure enough, I think it was like $3 or something when it
You
started trading.
use?
Yeah.
And
Sorry.
what broker do you use?
I think all mine are on Fidelity.
Oh,
Um, yeah. And then I was like, well, I can buy more. I got some cash, and so I bought more. And I think my average in the end was like $1.40 for all the shares that I had. I got to 1,000 shares, and that's that's as much money as I had at the time. But yeah, it was. At first I was like, why is this trading? This was supposed to be an untradable stock. Like everyone knew it was supposed to not trade. There was just supposed to be a placeholder or a an IOU for their assets, basically. And I was just waiting for them to make an announcement that they sold the oil assets and then get some cash on my account. And then that would be it. Uh, so when I looked into it, I was like, wait a minute. So these two market makers created a market and got permission to start trading this thing, even though the issuer said, don't trade this. And to me, that is as big a red flag as you could possibly have on anything. Is if the issuer of this stock is like, this is not tradable, why are you trading this? And yet it's still trading publicly through brokerages, just seems like as it just seems wrong. It just seems like alarm bells should be going off everywhere as a result of that. And then we find out later that the board at Metamaterial, they contacted FINRA and they're like, hey, this shouldn't be trading. And FINRA is basically like, well, too late. It is. uh, I don't. Yeah, it's crimes. It's just crimes all over.
and so let's kind of fast forward a little bit now. As you are, as this situation begins to unfold, what were your first thoughts when you learned that the Series A preferred share assets were going to be spun out into NextBridge Hydrocarbons?
I thought it was a pretty wise move because that's the only way you could get these market makers to stop trading your shares was you turn them into paper shares and you just remove them entirely from the market. Um, and so that I was like, this makes sense. If they want to be able to like sell their assets, they want to be able to not have all this weird stuff happening because it might put off a big oil company or someone who wants to purchase these assets. Because and as Rosa put it, it's like trading someone's bank account, right? Like you have a bank account with money in it, and all of a sudden someone made a bunch of shares and starts trading the money that's in your account. It's weird. So I think it was a wise move for them to apply the SEC, have the company go private, and remove them from the market. And everyone who was behind that knew for sure that these guys were going to have to close their positions. They're doing it specifically to hurt the market makers who shorted them and created this market, and to force all the shorts to have to close because there's no way the shorts will be able to provide the paper shares, the dividend, which was the paper shares, and you can't have these naked shorts in a private company because it's required if you're going to short naked under reg show, you have to be able to show that there's someone out there who can sell you the shares to cover, and you can't because it's untradeable. So you're going to have to close those positions, and that was the thinking
You would
behind.
think.
Yeah, that was the thinking behind the guys who came at the board who came up with like spinning this off, and lo and behold, we what happened
Well,
happened.
that's what the
Yeah,
belief is, but
yeah,
we just want to be clear that the spin out of the assets was also for metamaterials accounting purposes at the same time.
yeah,
So I think that's important to note. Um,
yeah.
now you're we see the S1s come out and they go through multiple revisions. What are your thoughts during that period where the S1 just kept having to be revised?
Um, I was thinking that the SEC is doing their job. That they are looking, they want to make sure that when they approve this thing and it goes private, there's no one who can object. And that's why they wanted to like cross every T and dot every I and make sure everything is perfect. And it was a 4-month process to get this thing approved. And after 3 months, the financials have been submitted for the S1 were already out of date. And so the last thing to do is like, hey, give us updated financials and you're good to go, which they did. In November, they got the rubber stamp to go private. So they made their announcement. They said, hey, in 3 weeks, we're going to go private. Stop trading on the 12th. On the 14th, we're going to issue paper shares to everyone who has them, and we're done. Delete the ticker. And I was like, awesome, cool. So if the price gets above, say, $100 a share, I might sell. If it doesn't get that high, I'll keep it. I'm figuring with the way oil prices are absolutely bonkers right now, if you've got billions of barrels of oil and natural gas, that's going to be worth a pretty
Well,
penny to anyone who wants
I
that
also
field.
want to talk about that a little bit, given you're obviously a smart fellow as it relates to your geological and study of mining minerals from space.
Yeah.
What is your opinion on this Oro Grande property in terms of viability for a big oil company?
Um, the biggest detriment that the property has is no access to infrastructure, and that's what's holding everyone back out there. Is that there's no pipelines, there's no refineries, there's no way to like consolidate what you get and easily get it to market, which is silly because if we're willing to build giant pipelines across rural Alaska, we should be easily able to get this stuff across flat Texas. Like
Yeah.
I don't understand what the hangup is to get infrastructure out there. But that's where the chief investment is you're gonna have to spend $1 billion building pipelines and storage facilities and getting things to refineries. And that's where I think
The discussion was that they were
Torchlight
going to use
stalled.
trucks.
Yeah. And it's really inefficient. You can do it that way, but that's small time. With the amount of oil and gas that's there, uh, you're going to need bigger infrastructure. You can maybe start out with trucks and build some capital, but in the end, you're going to have to make some pipelines. Um, the That's the money they were trying to raise when COVID hit and oil went negative. Like literally, if you wanted a barrel of oil, someone would pay you $10 to take it away because there was too much oil. No one was flying, no one was driving. It was summertime, so they weren't heating things with oil. It was just oil wasn't being used and it was piling up. And oil went negative, and the shorts took it as opportunity. Like, let's destroy this company. We can do it. And they hammered them down to like 21 cents. And there's no way you can raise the capital you need at 21 cents to build significant infrastructure for handling oil and gas. If you sell any stock, it's going to drive the price even lower. If you take out loans, they're going to use it as an excuse to hit you even more, so you won't be able to raise capital to pay off the loans. So yeah, when Metamaterial came along, and was like, hey, we want to be on the Nasdaq, let's merge. They were like, oh my god, okay, get us out of
Now,
this.
okay.
Yeah.
So the the stock goes on a little run up to $12 and
Mhm.
change, and then you
Yep.
open up your platform on December 9th. What do you see?
Yeah.
And well, first of all, the first corporate action notice comes out on the 6th.
Yeah.
Then on the 7th, Jeff Mendel goes on to a Trader TV broadcast and uses the word deleted instead of canceled.
Yeah.
And then the
Yeah.
next day, a new corporate action notice is issued, changing the word canceled from deleted. What did you interpret all
Yes.
of this to mean?
So the crazy thing is that took FINRA 3 weeks to come out with the corporate action to
Yeah.
begin with. Uh, they've been like the powers that be were begging, like, file a corporate action, file a corporate action, file a corporate. These brokers need to be told what to do, or else they're not going to do it. And the corporate action had the canceled term, and there is a difference between canceled and deleted when dealing with these stocks. If you say canceled, that means that they just the company doesn't exist anymore, and the shorts don't have to cover anything. When you say deleted, that means they remove the ticker, but the company still exists. So there was a problem with the language, and so they had to switch it to deleted on the 8th in the revised corporate action. By then, at the close of trade on the 8th, if you looked on like your Fidelity brokerage account, it said this is position close only. You can no longer purchase the
Yeah.
security. And because the brokers, everyone been asking the brokers for weeks, like, what are you going to do? And like, oh, well, because of the date of record takes 2 days, T plus 2, um, or settlement takes 2 days. So it's T plus 2. So on the date of record on the 12th, we know who has shares. We're making this position close only. We're going to force shorts to close. We've got people who are short, who their emails show like, hey, we're going to force you to close these positions on the 9th and 12th. If you don't pay for it now, we're going to liquidate you and force you to close. So the brokers knew what was up. And so on the 9th, wake up and I see that everyone's freaking out. And in my mind, I'm thinking like, oh, sweet, this is retirement day. Right? Like I've ordered the level 2s the night before, like within 5 trades, the price is at $2,000 a share. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be amazing. And I was thinking, yeah, Friday and Monday, that's Houston's retirement party. And then to see like, oh, there's a U3 halt. Oh, there's an unexplained extraordinary event. I wonder what that could be. That could be, if I do the math correctly, the fact they have to pay us $1 to $2 trillion to close out these positions, and that money doesn't exist. So that's the extraordinary event, was they don't want to pay us what they owe us. And of course, like, internet goes bonkers. YouTubers will go bonkers. Reddit, you name it, everyone's saying the same thing. Like this is them showing us how they can manipulate the system to not pay us what they owe us.
And how did you feel to
And
know that your retirement party was canceled?
it's a bummer. It's not the first time that's happened to me, but uh, uh, I'd said in the weeks leading up to this that this was going to be a litmus test. That if they can figure out a way how to get out of this, then they're going to be able to get out of any of the meme stocks that they've been shorting. And I think the legal challenges have been brilliant so far, and they're making these judges aware, like, oh, they are gaming the system, and the entire purpose of this is to be a free and fair market. And if the regulators are putting the thumb on the scale for these market makers, then it's not free and fair. So I think we're going to get some favorable rulings. I don't know what the time scale is going to be on them, but it's not the judge's prerogative. But I think that we made such a stink that the members of Congress are sick of us. The SEC is sick of us. FINRA is definitely sick of us.
Something happened to your mic.
Oh, can you hear me still?
You got far.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I don't know. Trying to hold the microphone in one spot. Yeah, I think that we made such a stink, and we're a very small community. There's only 65,000 of us that
Are you
held these
using an
shares.
external mic from your phone?
No, I'm using the one mic I have, which is.
All right. All right. I'm going to mute you, and then I'm going to unmute you. Okay. Can you unmute yourself and see if that changed?
All right.
That's a little bit better. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Where did I leave off when you couldn't hear me?
Well, you're just coming in. The best word I can use for it is the sound is a little bit hollow, but
Weird.
yeah, it is. It's strange. I mean, we're just discussing the legal challenges. I know that you've had Rosa on a couple of times. What were your first impressions of Rosa when you met her?
That she has it. Legally speaking, that she has a lawyer's brain, and not every lawyer has that. And she's a complete Type A personality, which is what you want. She is relentless, and whip smart. I mean, she's a University of Chicago law school grad, they don't make dummies there. Um, and in her background, she's one of the few that actually studied securities law in college, which is apparently not many people actually bother doing it because working securities law, I think, produces heart attacks more than anything else. Um, so yeah, so she's just a little godsend. Um, I think of the lawsuits that have been filed, I think hers is the most viable and has the best arguments and probably pulled the best judge as well. Uh, so I am behind her and I am in awe of her 100%.
Yeah, I've had the opportunity to become friendly with Rosa, and I agree with what you're saying personality wise about her 100%. She's a wonderful person. And so I know that she speaks very highly of you when she speaks to me, like when we're having our conversations. So I wanted to get kind of your impressions. So thank you for sharing that. Now, kind of changing gears just a little bit. I know you can't say much, but I can ask you if you are a shareholder of MMAT, right?
I am, yes.
Okay, and you're obviously being a shareholder. That means that your outlook for the company's future is positive.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. So this is what I.
I will say the one thing that they need more than anything is they need a sales team, and I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Well, I know a guy who can sell stuff.
Yeah.
So okay. So generally, what I'd like to do now is just kind of finish off my questioning part, and then take maybe 10 minutes worth of questions, if that's cool with you.
Sure.
Okay. So, first of all, before we get there, I like to ask everybody who sits with me on a fireside chat a series of 10 questions that originally came from a French series, Bouillon de Couture, hosted by Bernard Pivot. These
Okay.
questions are better known as the questions that James Lipton asks every guest at the end of an Inside the Actors Studio episode.
Okay.
Answer them for yourself and have fun with it. Question number 1. Houston, what is your favorite word?
Spatula. Spatula. It's just a weird looking word.
Ah, there you go. Your sound came back. Thank God.
Okay. Oh, spatula. Yeah, spatula is just a weird word.
Okay. And what is your least favorite word?
I don't know if I have a least favorite. Um, I know like a lot of people hate moist. I don't care about moist. Whatever. Uh, let's see. I don't know if I have a least favorite word. Maybe like when certain words come out of people's mouths you don't want them to come out of, like when your parents talk about sex or something. I don't know. I have to be much more conditional, I think.
Okay. What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
Um, Being in the desert and seeing rocks.
On
It's just,
mushrooms or sober?
no, just I'm a total square, so sober.
Okay.
Uh, I just I like looking at rocks and they just I don't know, fascinate me.
All right. And what turns you off?
Um,
Don't get
hmm.
political.
I complainers, people that just
Okay.
complain constantly. Like, yeah, stuff sucks in life. At the same time, like, if things were going well, you'd still be bitching.
What is your favorite curse word?
Uh, I like douchebag. Um, yeah, probably douchebag. I like that one.
All right. What sound or noise do you love?
Sound or noise do I love? The jingle of a dog's collar.
Nice. And I know you have at least one, right?
And I got Monkey Butt. She's here next to me.
All right. Um, And what sound or noise do you hate?
There's a lot of those. Anytime there are chimes in a song, it's visceral, and I feel like my skin's peeling off. Uh, and and
So
and
you like
and
the
I want
jingle from your dog's collar, but you don't like a recurring jingle in a fucking song.
no, a random jingle like blink, 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 blink. I'm fine with, but the cascading sound of chimes going, I hate it. And it's in every R&B song from like 1992 to the present on every like fourth measure. And it doesn't add add anything to the songs. And I kind of want to drop kick Babyface off of a tall building for putting it in every song. It's awful. It's terrible, and it's just worst sound.
Well, there it is.
Yeah.
Now, what profession other than those that you've tried would you like to attempt?
Oh man. Uh, Professional rally car driver.
Okay. And what profession would you never like to attempt?
Um, Probably like commercial diver on a oil rig or something.
The irony.
Yeah.
Um, Final question from this segment. Houston, if heaven exists, what
Yes.
would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Oh man. Um, you tried your best.
There you go. Hey, that's a valid answer.
Yeah.
That's a valid answer. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if you have a question for Houston Wade, we are not talking politics. I will throw your ass out if you bring up politics. We're not talking politics today. If you have a question for Houston Wade, feel free to grab a mic. Jorel, I threw you a co-host. Marduk, Houston, I don't know if you know Marduk or you know of Marduk, but Marduk is kind of like the godfather of these Twitter spaces. He's been here dedicated from day one, and he's also a very very big MMAT fan. So I'd like to defer to Marduk to see if he has any questions about MMTLP. For by the way, that whole you nicknaming MMAT is Acme, that was
Yeah.
genius and hilarious.
Well, someone else did it for me in the chat, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna run with that.
Yeah, I thought that was hilarious. By the way, uh, Marduk, I'm gonna allow you and Jorel to take the first questions if you've got one for Houston. Go for it, Marduk.
Well, first of all, I want to say thanks for coming in, Houston. Obviously, a big fan. I find the streams incredibly entertaining, especially when we get into space and geology and all that stuff. No questions in particular. Maybe, um, what's your favorite metal band?
Oh man. I think like metal's such a wide genre. Um,
I know.
I do think like seriously, ironically, the best metal band ever is Death Clock. Like hit after hit.
Great answer.
Yeah. Like Brendan Smalls is an absolute genius,
Yep.
and he literally brought in like the best of everyone to form that band. And it's a cartoon. Um, Outside of fictitious cartoon metal bands or like Spinal Tap or something, I am keen. Like I do love my leather metal, uh, but I love Glenn Danzig. I just Danzig does it for me in such a big way.
Mother. Yeah, I hear you, man.
Yeah.
For sure. Well,
All
that's
right.
awesome, dude. I'm a probably mine would be Children of Bodom. For those who know
Nope.
me,
Yeah.
I'm a
No, that's a
guitar
good one.
player, so
Yep.
yeah. Well, thanks
Yep.
for stopping by, man. This is kind of cool because I know you weren't really doing spaces anymore. So
Yeah. Well, thank you.
I am very very sneaky, sir. Jorel, did you have a question for Houston?
I am not prepared for this segment, so I'm going to have to think and come back if there's time.
Okay.
Yeah, we should be fine. I saw Joseph grab the mic. Joseph, do you have a question for Houston? Joseph? Hey, Fura, you're muted.
Sorry. You're a very smart man. I love your videos. I love watching you on YouTube, and thank you for all you do. How do you think this is all going to play
out? There's a few options on the horizon. I mean, start with the most negative first, which is the courts don't like us at all, and they go, you know what, screw you, and nothing happens, and we just sit there for who knows how long until either, NextBridge is forced to go back in the market and raise capital, or until they sell the assets. If they sell the assets, then the out price for all the shorts will be whatever the per share sale price is. If they're forced to go back in the market, I have no doubt that the shorting will continue. That's the negative side. On the positive side, probably the least best outcome would be if there's a negotiated settlement saying, we'll close out the short positions. It'll be at this price. The first, 300 million shares to agree to that, it's over. Otherwise, the best outcome would be the courts recognize what a shit show this is, and that the shorts took on, this potential infinite risk when they shorted the stock, and now the pipers come calling, and the court basically says, this is a mess. You got to force everybody to close, and that would be the most ideal, because it would give us the opportunity to really be like, do I want to stay in this stock, or do I want to take whatever could be the name my price might be for the shares, which I'll gladly take. I don't care if I own an oil company, but if an oil company is worth more than selling, I'll own an oil company. So that's probably the biggest outcome.
Thank you, sir. It's an honor and a pleasure to talk to you.
Oh, thank you.
Jack Smitty.
Houston, how you doing, man?
Well, how are you?
All right, thank you. So I have a question for you. There's a member of this community, also from the greater Seattle area, who is a great guy, happens to be a little delusional, thinking that the Seattle Kraken are going to win the Stanley Cup. My question to you is, how are you also delusional? I hope not. No, but more seriously, how has the team being there, helped or hurt or the city or its effect on it? Are you a fan? I like hockey a little bit, so that's where my questions tend to go.
Jack
What's
is
your take on the
obsessed with
Kraken?
hockey.
Yeah, no, I like hockey, but growing up, we never really had hockey around here, so I was not immersed in it. When I go back to the East Coast and visit cousins, my cousin Judson, he played hockey through college for University of Maine. He was a top player, sadly went undrafted, but then became a ref. And so he refs for whatever the AAA equivalent is in hockey. And then got
AHL.
Yeah, so he got to go ref for the Olympics a couple of times as a Olympic referee. He's hoping to get his call up as a ref for the NHL someday, so I'm stoked that if he gets that. But like, I went to a couple Thunderbird games back in the day when they were still in Seattle proper and not down in Renton or wherever they are now. I enjoyed it, but it's I'm stoked that we finally got a team after the 1916 Seattle Metropolitans won the Stanley Cup.
I'm surprised you knew that. That's impressive.
Yeah, and I'm bummed we didn't actually name the team the Metropolitans and have those Christmas colors, because then we could claim we were Stanley Cup winners.
They actually had a naming contest, I believe.
Second year there. They're that good. Yeah.
Thanks, Jack. I automatically know it's going to be a good question. Houston, I'd like you to meet our own resident wizard. His name is Gandalf. Hello, Gandalf.
Hey, Drew. Hey, Houston. How are you?
Hello. I'm well.
So, you kind of piqued my interest here. And by the way, forgive me, guys. I literally just hopped on Twitter. I was working. I'm still working, and I kind of missed probably a really great space Fireside. So I'll definitely listen to the recording later. When Joseph earlier asked you the question about the outcome, you always referred back to the fact that it's going to be, the resolution has to come from the court. So are you insinuating that the resolution is not going to come out like this without a court decision?
I don't think so. I think if FINRA has its way, they'll protect those market makers for as long as possible. That it's going to have to be the court, or if we're somehow lucky and we get a legislative action, which I doubt, it's going to have to be the court to say this is BS. We're gonna have to rectify this. So, and if say like Rosa or Hoffman or someone else gets a negative outcome, I do think it stands a chance in front of a panel in front of the appellate court. So because the arguments I think are slam dunks. That FINRA does not have a leg to stand on here. They aren't financially harmed by forcing this action, and their excuse of being immune to prosecute or immune to lawsuits is bullshit. They're immune to punitive damages, and that's it. You can still be sued and forced to do an action. So I honestly think that the courts, and I do think Rosa pulled a good judge, that they're going to be the ones having to rectify this.
Don't you find it? And I apologize. I'm probably going to push a bit of boundaries here, and if I do at any time, you don't need to answer.
Yeah.
So don't you find it a bit curious that she's filed this since December 12th, and at least as far as I know, there's not really any responses yet.
Yeah.
And Nextbridge also had filed their S1, and SEC approached them and asked to file for an extension, and here we are also crickets.
Yep. The courts are busy. They have a lot on their plate. I don't know how many people in here have spent much time in a court, but it's a lot. I mean, you'll show up to a hearing and there'll be 20 people that have to go in front of you before you have your chance. While you're doing your thing, some prisoner might come in. They got to halt the process and deal something with him. There's a lot that has to get done, and the clerks are overworked, and oftentimes they might not even look at what they have in front of them before that 90 days is up.
Well, there's a significant difference between civil and criminal. I mean, they're separated.
But no, not at the federal level. They're doing both at the same time. So they're handling it all. So my guess is that probably this coming week the judge is finally going to crack open and actually start reading these things and figuring out what the hell's going on. And they really haven't done that to this point.
But it's very interesting because, especially for Rosa's lawsuit, it's pretty unique because, at least to me, it's not just a really an MMTOP situation, but you're kind of also testing the boundaries of the Sherman Act at this point to see if it's something that could apply or not. And if the judge is looking at this, that he's going to be or she's going to be very careful about it.
I'm gonna just kind of chime in here. Houston, do you think it's possible that Nextbridge may try to throw their hat in and force some kind of resolution somehow?
Honestly, I don't know. I am amazed at how quiet the board has been. There is some evidence that the board from Metamaterial has spoke with some people in DC in December and January, but they've been quiet. I have no clue what's happening behind the scenes. If they've got lawyers working on this stuff as desperately as our few public faces are.
I would imagine that for the purposes of their corporate governance being, clean, that Nextbridge would want to see this resolved sooner than a court process would render.
Yeah, and I don't know. They may be biding their time to just kind of gauge and see what happens with these rulings. I think it's a big thing that the New York court ruled that FINRA has to appear. That to me is a good sign, and now that we have the ability to counter FINRA's bullshit, when they do appear on, was it May 30th is when that do appear, that what's his name, Basile, is that the lawyer?
Basile.
Basile, that they can piggyback off of the other filings made, and they can counter anything that FINRA can come up with. And I wouldn't doubt FINRA says like, oh, we can't release the blue sheets because there's privileged information in there, which they just say, okay, redact the privileged information. Done.
Yeah.
Right? And the judge would be like, no, redacted. That's totally a viable solution. So, there's so many court cases going on that one's going to break our way. Someone's going to appeal to the judge's legal mind and go, you know what? Yeah, this is bullshit. Let's release the information. We want to know how many shares are there. There's no harm in that. And FINRA may be forced to do that.
We'll see. Gandalf, anything else?
Yeah, I do. You said two more things.
Okay.
So regarding the fact that looking at the outcomes is more from a judicial system, would you be comfortable giving a timeline in your head?
Oh, I mean, the judge's prerogative is judge's prerogative. I wouldn't doubt if we get something from the Northern District of Florida in May, some murmur or something that comes out of them. I don't know the exact timeline of Alan Ainsley's or Richard Hoffman's cases and what they're expecting. And the one in Georgia just got filed, so that's probably looking at months until the judge says anything. But we'll hear something this month, probably from Northern District of Florida, and then we'll have that interesting hearing in the New York. They call it Supreme Court, but really it's just District Court in New York. They gave it a fancy name. People always love like, oh my God, the New York Supreme Court's working on this, and they call every court the Supreme Court in New York. But that's May 30th. So sometime this month we're gonna have some really interesting things going on.
Mm-hmm.
And if the judge rules in New York like you got to provide this stuff, then Rosa can definitely amend and apply that to her case. So, I feel optimistic.
Okay. Last one, just a full disclaimer. You absolutely don't need to answer it, given the nature of the question. But in the past, a certain someone that may have the same family name expressed the situation of MMTLP, and it kind of backfired, and MMAT shareholders were not happy about it, and that person was not had to remove publicly these expressions. How do you feel about this whole situation that Metamaterials has regulations not to comment about MMTLP?
Yeah, oops. I don't know. I don't think I can comment really on it at all.
Okay.
But
okay, fair enough.
There you go. Gandalf, thanks, man.
Thanks, Drew. Right. Thanks, Houston.
Of course. Disco Kid, and then I'll give him one more, and then we'll wrap it up. Go ahead, Disco.
Thanks, man. Disco King, by the way. Hey, Houston.
Hello.
Hey, man. You watch Pick of Destiny yet?
No.
Dude, come on. Hey, is it all right to ask a BBBY question, or is this MMTLP only?
I don't care. I ask away.
I'll ask the host.
No, you've got access to him. I'm not going to restrict you. Go for it, buddy.
Thanks, man. I was just wondering if you got a chance to look at those paperwork that got released yesterday about Ryan Cohen potentially being a potential buyer, or at least those are the rumors.
The paper listed them as potential buyer with like 20 others. I think it's still good. I am, the way I'm treating Bed Bath & Beyond is as a total lotto ticket. In my heart, I'm accepting the fact that any money I spent on Bed Bath & Beyond is a complete loss. But there's that one little caveat that there's going to be somebody who wants to buy them. I mean, it's a company that makes $6-7 billion a year in revenue every year. Like, why wouldn't you want to buy them before they go through this bankruptcy and have to like liquidate everything and lose all their institutional knowledge and their vendor networks and all that stuff? The time to pounce is now. So if there's going to be a savior, my guess is it's going to be soon. And if that happens, cool. I got some walking around money. If it doesn't happen, I've got my tax write-off for next year. That's the way I'm treating it.
Cool. Did you watch the Super Mario movie yet?
I haven't been to a movie in like 5 months.
Dude, it's a good one.
Okay.
Hey, last question. Just curious.
Yeah,
if you saw
Houston's
the-
scared of the COVID.
Just curious if you caught up on the news regarding PacWest, Western Alliance Bank, and the Metropolitan Bank.
Oh yeah, they're toast. They're done. They'll be needing buyers, and I think regional banks in general are going to just get attacked one after another because there's a lot of money to be made shorting these guys, and the big banks love it. So yeah, I think they're all toast.
You going live tonight?
Am I going out or going
Live.
live? Oh, that, yes. I'll be doing After Dark probably in about 3 hours.
All right,
Yeah.
sweet. Can't wait for the 3 intros. Thanks, man.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks, Disco. I did say that was going to be it, but I'm going to give Jor-El the co-host personal privilege, and I'm going to let you go ahead.
Thank you. If you could spend the day with any known person in history, who would it be and what would you do?
Oh man, any known person in history. Just for humanity's sake, I'd probably make it Nikola Tesla, and I would bring a notebook and fill that notebook up with as much stuff that had been lost in his fires over the years in his labs, because the man did crazy, incredible things that we can't figure out how he did it or what he did. And once he figured something out, he just moved on to the next project, and he kept burning his labs down, losing all the information. And so I think I'd just follow him around and basically force him to recount how he did everything, so I could just jot down notes.
That was a great question, Jor-El.
Thanks. So screw humanity. Now who do you spend the day with?
Screw humanity.
Also a great question.
All right, for own selfish personal reasons, who do I spend the day with? Screw humanity.
I'm going to guess Michael Jackson.
Oh no, not Michael Jackson. No. I mean, I don't know. Like for personal reasons,
It's
Marilyn Monroe or Bo Derek back when that meant something. I don't know.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah.
All right. And I'm going to end it by asking you, if you had it to do all over again, would you do anything different as it relates to your choices to buy, sell, or hold your MMTLP shares? Would you do anything different?
I mean, with hindsight being everything, I probably would have day traded it more, and so I could get more shares of things. Because with that volatility, like you sell at 10, buy back at 1, sell at 12, buy back at 2.
No, of course.
Yeah.
But the meat and potatoes of the question is, would you still be holding MMTLP right now in the position that we're in, given everything that you know?
Yeah. Because no matter what, the value of the stock is worth more than any sale price that's been offered so far.
There it is.
Yeah.
Houston, thanks, man. I appreciate you coming in. I know you don't do spaces often. What is going to happen, ladies and gentlemen, is keeping true to my word, I'm going to deliver this recording to Houston, and Houston, you can throw it up on your YouTube channel. I think your viewers would really appreciate the opportunity to get to hear a little bit about your own life experiences. And as we draw this fireside chat to a close, I want to thank you again for sharing your insights and experiences with us. Your passion for the MMTLP fight and dedication to the fight that we've been in has really been inspiring to a lot of people. A lot of people were really happy to hear that we were going to have this opportunity with you today. Ladies and gentlemen, throughout our discussion, Houston has provided us with his perspective on the challenges and opportunities facing the MMTLP community, as well as sharing his own personal experiences. Again, the unwavering commitment that he's had serves as a testament to the power of grassroots advocacy, I want to say, and the impact that one person can make in affecting change is demonstrated by Houston's consistent efforts. I can tell you, as someone who spends 60 to 80 hours a week in Twitter Spaces, hosting and speaking and talking to people, it is no easy feat to keep that commentary going.
Yeah.
And I am not surprised one bit to learn of how intelligent you are, because only a person with that level of intelligence could create so much content on an ongoing basis. So kudos to you, Houston.
Well, thank you.
Of course, as we leave here today, I encourage all of us to remember that, and Houston would probably admit this himself, anything that he says is one person's opinion. It's important for all of us to reflect on all of the insights that everyone shares with us and form our own. Let's continue to support the MMTLP community and advocate for the outcomes and resolutions that we're all looking for. Once again, Houston, thank you so much for joining today and sharing your perspective with us. It's been an honor and a privilege to have you here. And hey, man, I wish you all the best in all your ongoing efforts to make a difference in the world, whether it's, through your contributions to your fields of study or, just the differences that you make to the people in this community. Thanks very much for joining us today.
Thank you, and everybody swing on by the YouTube channel tonight, and we'll keep it going with the weirdness.
And that is going to cut it for this episode of the Fireside Chat, ladies and gentlemen. And keeping in custom with the way I close spaces, I usually do so with a prayer. I say that prayer to a higher power of my own understanding. I call that higher power God. It is not a rock God. It is the God. And the prayer that I'm going to go with today is the abbreviated one, and it is as follows. Wherever you all come and wherever you all go, I pray that you always be delivered safely and in God's hands. God bless everybody. Thanks a lot, Houston. Thanks again for joining, man. Have a great night.
Thank you, too.
All right, brother.